well connected. The centres are well connected, and they're well connected within themselves as well. So this should be the future. So you don't go and build a large motorway, tollway to the CBD. You start looking strategically and make a commitment.
Wendy and Mark, because you know you'll get some flack, latte sipping hipsters choking on their quinoa, while people in Sydney's Greater West finally getting transport justice.
They're not, that's the problem.
What do you say to the sort of the NIMBYs and stuff that will be thrown your way when these sort of things are discussed?
Well, in my own experience, most of the people I've known during the years that I've been in Newtown, but even before that in the city, I don't really think that half of them probably don't know how to pronounce Kimwar. I often pronounce it wrongly myself, and I don't think I really think, if anything, people have got a vision that actually incorporates other people and other communities. I certainly don't see myself as someone who's rooted in Newtown forever, and in fact, I certainly make sure, and one of the things I'm doing now, I'm back in journalism, is making sure I go out to Homebush West or Mount Druitt to actually see what's going on out there, because it is possible, I think, to be in the city and not know maybe how very tough things can be across in Phillip Street, Bedford, for that matter, or out in the outlands.
Things are pretty good in Phillip Street, Bedford.
It's pretty good,
Mark, you said most of the businesses are owned by locals, but who are the customers of those businesses on King Street? Is it a local trading area, or do people from all around Sydney come to what is
people
currently
from all around Sydney and the state come around? In my shop, we regularly serve people that have come up from Canberra, that have driven in for long periods just to walk the street. So, if I'm going to be painted as a latte sipping Pinot Noir drinker, well, let's bring it on, I say.
Can I just say to you...
Just don't mix your latte with your Pinot Noir. Any circumstance, yes.
We've done a lot of work through all our main streets, and we always hold King Street up as the model. It's where it's kept its mix, it's interesting, it's vital, it's quirky, it's unusual, and has lots of people wanting to go there. Poor Oxford Street has really suffered because of that clearway, and that's been its major problem.
Well, let's compare King Street to Parramatta Road, and you used the phrase an urban blight, Terry, and you are right, Lord Mayor, the newspaper screaming new rejuvenation of Parramatta Road comes around every few years, like the headlines of a commitment to a second airport, or political donations cleaned up, or for a chance at this year's NRL. That's just lunatic stuff. So it is easy to get cynical, but surely, Terry, and I'd like to hear from my two candidates here as well, something as big as Parramatta Road genuinely being improved and made more amenable, will that only ever happen as part of a larger plan, or WestCONnex or something, or will people ever just tackle Parramatta Road for its own sake?
I think it's a complex problem. There's the traffic flows through there, but also from a redevelopment point of view, it's hard to find sites which can develop. It's got a Victorian-era subdivision. Finding blocks which you can go put apartments on is quite challenging. And this is where you need an integrated approach, saying we need to improve the land economics, but also the transport flows. And that's been so challenging. It hasn't happened for the last 150 years.
Is it, Penny, Jenny? Is it just too hard, Parramatta Road? Is it just something that never been done?
No, it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be connected to WestCONnex at all. There's an urban development. There's an urban development need along the Parramatta Road corridor, and we need to get serious at talking about how much density is there and what is built around it. We also need to get serious about anything that happens along there to have public transport, cycling and walking as part of it, about making a living city. That is the big gap that is missing. I don't accept that WestCONnex is the only way in which Parramatta Road will be rejuvenated. That is utter rubbish. What we need to do with Parramatta Road is to do proper community consultation, to actually have a transport plan that might start as buses, but look at a longer term vision for it. And we need to get serious about how we fund it. And that's talking about things like value capture that Terry's raised, and really talking to the federal government. It is not a reasonable position to say we only fund roads and we do not fund rail. That is preposterous. If we're actually going to deal with congestion, we have to deal with both. And the reality of the state government is that we need input from the federal government to invest in rail.
I think that one of the huge problems that we're seeing is that we have either side of Parramatta Road urban growth responsible for the development, and yet the middle bit, the road, we have the WestCONnex delivery authority. So even within one government process, you don't even have integration on the same road. The Greens have committed to the idea of delivering light rail on Parramatta Road. I think that's what we need to see. We also need to recognise that when we're looking at what urban growth is doing, they are talking about massive injections of density, but there is not a conversation about what does that look like in terms of the transport needs, what does that look like in terms of the essential services, the schools, the healthcare provision, those kind of things. And that's part of the problem with having set up these separate authorities, separate arm's length allegedly organisations and groupings that are basically delivering on different parts of projects without any recognition of what does it mean to make our city more livable. And it's one of the things that I think is so crucial about the role that the City of Sydney can play, because at least there is an integrated approach to those things in some areas, working with councils like Marrickville and like Leichhardt, to be able to say, look, if the state government isn't going to see us as how does it impact on our lives, then actually at least we have our local councils doing that in the inner city, watching out for those things.
And the way to improve Parramatta Road is reduce the capacity for the traffic on the road. And Urban Growth have said they've started their consultation about this, and some planners came and addressed the city and said that what they've been told when they've had that consultation is that people would like more public transport. Goodness me.
A couple of quick questions, and my final question to you all will be, we're going to go forward 10 years. People have said that, some people have said in favour of WestCONnex, it is the biggest project since the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Sydney. So we're going to go forward 10 years, and something has happened that is the biggest transport project since the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And you're going to tell me what it is 10 years from now. In your ideal Sydney 10 years from now, what is something massive that has happened in transport? Maybe it is WestCONnex. I'd be surprised if it was from what some of you are saying. But give us something 10 years from now that really inspires you. But I want to ask you, Terry, it's a $15 billion, possibly plus, project. Construction, jobs, and time in the economy is being offset by mining's decline. Surely that is of some value itself, but at the same time, I've got a tweet here that says, how many trains will $15 billion buy? So what's the economic case for that sort of expenditure in an economy like Australia's at the moment? Surely there's a plus in that.
You'd think so, but the real challenge at the moment is Sydney's economy is booming. It's pulling along the whole country. The Reserve Bank's talking about lowering interest rates, but it's worried about the Sydney economy overheating. So the idea about thinking that Sydney needs to be propped up through infrastructure investment for the sake of infrastructure investment is a really hard one to get your head around. The other question about how many trains does $15 billion buy, I think the answer is a lot. Lots and lots,
But at the moment, there would be lots and lots of trains sitting in sheds without tracks to run on in vast parts of Sydney, wouldn't they? That
would actually need the tracks to put the carriages on. Can I say, Adam,
yes.
In the Metropolitan Strategy that the government brought down on the 14th of December, that probably none of you have seen or have even heard about, has proposals that if we were here in 10 years' time and they had been acted upon, would have created a very different Sydney. We would have those western centres of Penrith, Parramatta, Liverpool, Campbelltown, would all be centres that were linked by rail, heavy rail. Within them there would be light rail. They would have people living there and working there, and the knowledge economy would be there as well as in the CBD of Sydney. And they would then be connected by fast, efficient rail to the CBD of Sydney. We would have light rail going down to Green Square, the largest urban renewal area in Australia. And we would have a really thriving city that is walkable, that you could cycle on, that you could travel on public transport on, and we would be responsibly addressing climate change as well by reducing our emissions. That's the future we should be looking at.
I think you've taken me to my last question. I know this is not your city, so 10 years from now, apart from the Swans having won the flag every other year of Buddy Franklin's contract when he nicked off you guys. What can you see 10 years from now for this city?
I think it's going to be a bigger, more globally connected city. In terms of transport, it needs more mass transit, whether it's heavy rail, light rail. It needs to move around, not just 5 million existing people, 6, 7, 8 million people over a long term. And that's where you need mass transit. And that's where metro systems, that's what we talked about, London as an example. Think about the transport network in London, how that differs to Sydney, and how we reach that solid of transport. And just one last thing, we're in a globally competitive age. People are looking on a map saying, well, can I locate in Sydney for a business? So I go to Shanghai, Hong Kong, or some city in China with 20 million people no one's ever heard of, but still got a superior public transit system to Sydney. So it's about global competition, how we drive, not just Sydney or New South Wales, the whole nation forward.
But, take me forward 10 years. Didn't see that coming, did you?
I really don't have
No trouble at all. I love that sort of answer. I'm pretty sure I'm leaving you to last one because I like the cut of your jib. I'm pretty sure our two candidates will have something to say. 10 years from now, something's happening 10 years from now. People are going to look back and go, I love that Labor did that, or I love that the Greens did that. It's big, it's in transport. What is it? Fire away, man.
It's a second Harvard crossing to extend the capacity of our rail network for everyone who lives here. It's a second airport that's connected by rail that actually is able to transform and provide the range of jobs that Western Sydney needs to really make it true that people do not have to be in their cars an hour a day. They're getting to and from work from the city. It's about a distribution of jobs through our community. Public transport is absolutely part of that. It's about light rail in Parramatta, extending out and connecting all of the different generators. And it's not just one route, hopefully it's more routes than are currently there. It's also about what I'd really like to see is some movement on a very fast train where Badgerys Creek could actually be the stop that brings us into the city, and we can really get serious about talking about New South Wales broadly, and in particular a city that has cycling and walking in every suburb, in every neighbourhood, connected to very good public transport where people need it.
Jenny, 2025.
I think what we've got to look at is the idea of saying that in 10 years' time, Sydney could be and should be winning awards for our world-class public transport systems and integrated cycleways. That's what we would want to be seeing. We also would want to be seeing the idea of not committing and having to see men in ties with silver spades announcing big projects because it makes them feel important. But instead recognising that transport solutions should be about the person that struggles down the stairs at Petersham Station because we still don't deliver accessible train stations, and people not having to get off their bike at that awkward little bit that happens near the side of King Street and walk on the footpath and nearly get hit by a car because the cycleways aren't integrated. And it's about saying we can deliver light rail on Parramatta Road as well as in Parramatta if we don't put billions of dollars into this WestCONnex project. But I don't think we'll see WestCONnex because I think this community is strong and will stand against it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I really hope that we're not still fighting the WestCONnex in 10 years because actually we'll be only still halfway through constructing it and it's going to be a hell of a mess. And lots of struggles, so I hope that we're not there. I agree with Penny on something. I agree with Penny and Jenny on cycleways. I'd like to see everywhere in Sydney, everybody with cycleways. I'd like to see far less cars and shared cars. And I'd like to see light rail, certainly down Parramatta Road and other important places at Clover and in other places out in Western and Northern Sydney. I'd like to see mass transit because obviously that will move far more people and then we'll have less cars. And can I just put in a special plea? I certainly hope to be well able to get up and down the stairs in 10 years' time, but just in case, I hope we can lift that Western station.
That brings us to the end of our discussion. So we've got two more things. The Lord Mayor's going to make a couple of closing remarks. I get the impression we've got a couple of little concepts we want to flush by the audience. So we can have the house lights up slightly. The Lord Mayor's going to say a couple of closing remarks. We've got a big photo opportunity planned for them. What would you like to say, Lord Mayor?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. and say that this has been an incredibly important conversation to have about the largest transport project in Australia, and we haven't had that conversation up until now. So I really am very appreciative that you have all come to have it, and I'd like to thank all of our speakers. And also thank our great team here at the City, led by Julie, who organised these meetings for us. Now, I've got some resolutions I'd like to put to you, and I'm going to read them out, and then I'm going to ask for a vote. And then we're going to let the government and the opposition know what the outcome is. So the first proposal is that we immediate halt to the development process of WestCONnex, given its massive projected costs, its inability to achieve its stated purposes, and its damaging impacts on densely populated inner city communities. All of those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against?
I think you won that.
The second proposal is that we're calling for the release of all documents concerning the rationale and need for WestCONnex, particularly the full business case and the cost-benefit analysis. Anyone against? Declare it carried unanimously. The third one is to prioritise the Sydney Metropolitan Transport planning with a mix of roads and heavy and light rail projects that includes strong links between Western Sydney regional cities and takes into account a future Badgerys Creek Airport. I'll put that to you. All those in favour say aye. Those against?
Shall I check quickly if anyone's abstaining?
There's one person down the back who's against. Is that right?
Yep.
And a cap?
Yes.
One against?
Two. I counted two against on that one.
Okay.
First two unanimous. Last one.
So they don't want transport planning, okay? So commit to the completion of a full social, environmental and economic impact report with public input before commencing tendering and contracting on future road and transport projects. All those in favour?
Aye.
Say aye. Those against?
Yeah, you got it back on that one.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. The only other thing that remains for us to do, I don't...
Just asking if I move a resolution about stopping the forced acquisitions in St Peters until there is full release of all documents concerning the rationale and need for WestCONnex, particularly so you're asking that we resolve to...
Can I...
So these are the compulsory acquisitions before the planning assessment has been done.
So can I suggest, because I don't want us to get bogged down in framing resolutions and the like, but is it fair to say that the meeting in general shares concerns about the forced acquisitions taking place in relation to... Yeah, I don't want to be here for an hour and a half before the environmental impact study has been carried out, or any of the before we have seen the full business case. Yes, okay. Is that generally in tandem with the feeling of the room?
Yes. Anyone against?
Thank you very much.
Okay, that carried unanimously too.
The only other thing we need to do is, I'm very excited about this because it's a public meeting. I don't just get to organise a little photo of our panellists at the end. I get to organise what we call a hero shot. And what's going to happen here is our speakers are going to go back down to their seats in front, take the very attractive red signs they've got, and anyone else who wishes to be in the photo behind holding those red signs, there's going to be a photographer shooting from this way back that way through the crowd. So give our speakers a round of applause as they move back to their chairs. If the photographer would like to come forward. That light's good for you. Excellent. If you can wait a couple of minutes, don't race out the door because we don't want to leave any. I presume the organisers don't want any seats in the photo range. Charge. Get on in, he doesn't have the wide angle lens, get in tight.